out of it. Greg, so many hours, went into the planning between you and Carson. What came out? Take us behind the scenes. Did you guys grow like as father son working on this venture together? And do you feel like you're seeing another side of your son, perhaps?
Oh my, did we?
Well, goodness gracious. Yes, the answer is yes, Val. Every creative piece, especially that's collaborated between two artistic people, for example, Greg Meakin and Carson Meakin, is an evolving process. You begin it, and then you evolve through it, and eventually come, after many reworks, to a finished product. And as I joke, it sounds cliche, but you know something's a finished product when it sings to you. It just sings to you, you know it's right. The behind the scenes here was, and this is, the crest is not, as they say, the first thing Carson and I have collaborated on. There's probably been maybe a half dozen, maybe a dozen things over the years. And as with this crest, I made a phone call to him. Said, Carson, there were a number of different ways to develop a crest, which I was thinking about maybe doing a contest for people to put in their submissions or this or that. I said, no, to myself. I said, no. The mission is so big, the concept is so big, that I wanted Carson to actually throw his artistic, spirit behind this and create something. And so I called him, and he probably will remember this, out of the blue, and said, hey, this is how it starts. Want to design a crest, don't know what we want to do here. I've got 3 or 4 or 5 things I want to be included. It's got to be a tribute to the Alberta people, the province. No idea where it's going to go. I just lay out, as quote visionary that I am, of what core elements I was looking for. But number one, needing to be a one of a kind, hopefully a masterpiece. I didn't think it was going to necessarily. You never expect a masterpiece with any piece of art, but it's starting to grow on me right now that this truly is a one in a million. But so this is the beauty of collaboration. I throw these ideas by, and then Carson, whether it's hours later or days, depending on the collaboration, will throw a draft by me. And as he will, what do you think? And we talk about it and modify stuff. And as I said, there's probably 5 or 6 almost completely different looks to the crest as it evolved. Similar but different, and we work through it. And the fun thing about it, when you say evolving, things like the red tail hawk, things like the teepees, things like even the shading on it that you touched on the great big A, that quote is arrowhead, goes from red to brown, meaning the evolution of the oil and gas industry in Alberta, which is so huge and is so underrated and it so needs to be opened up again, but over these drafts and evolving, it does actually not change your viewpoint, but evolves your viewpoint on it. And I'll just tell you, just bottom line, I learned a lot. And I learned a lot from the Indian Nation during this piece. And I learned a lot from my son, Carson, because I will say these parameters, I'll share these parameters as a visionary, but I'm not a drawer. I can't even draw a stick man, Val. I can't even draw a stick man. But then Carson comes out with even his drafts are masterpieces. Val, you can actually tell an inside scoop about this in that you saw a number of these drafts as we were working on it, because of course Val Wilson News is where New News gets its news, so you were on the inside track there. So bottom line, yes you evolve, and yes, things come out usually better than you think. And indeed, the fun part is the backstory, the history of how it came out beautifully. And in the end, that's really the story of Alberta and Alberta 51. Lots of drafts, lots of revisions,
A little rough around the edges.
Evolving, and then boom, you got a beautiful finished product, just like Alberta 51 USA.
This is the Alberta 51 podcast. We cover everything Alberta to USA. Don't forget, you have the opportunity to make history.